So my substantive role is as an organizer with the public sector team. But over the last 6 months, I've been very fortunate to be leading a project, which we call the Diverse Project, for want of a better word, where we're looking at obviously our nurses that are not working in the public sector, that are not working in aged care, that are not working in the private sector. So groups of nurses that are out there working in lots of different areas. There might be GP clinics, it might be medical centres, it might be yourselves, it might be people working in schools. So as you know, nurses work in lots and lots of areas. So what we're wanting to do is work out how we can better communicate with those professional bodies, that group of professional people. So as part of my project, I basically looked at, the long list that we've got lots and lots, obviously working in the different areas, and sort of putting them, reclassifying them into professional groups, and then working out, hopefully working with those professional groups via mediums like this to work out how we can better serve you as your union, and how you can be better be part of all of this. And so I guess that's why we're sort of at the pointy end of the project now, and we're approaching different groups of people. We have had sessions with the GP nurses. Obviously, we've got this session now with medical imaging nurses, and in a couple of weeks, we're hoping to do the same thing with the nurses working in cosmetics and injectables, because again, all of these areas are growing areas, lots of nurses working out in various positions in the community. And it's really about, we do have a presentation for you this evening, because we didn't want to sort of throw to you and say, what would you like from us? So we put together a presentation, or our education team have put together a presentation, but there will also be an opportunity for you to ask some questions later, and then there will also be a feedback form, which I please, as the leader of the Diverse Project, I beg you to fill that the feedback form in, because it's really going to help me gather information, and particularly if I can see that the common themes coming through the different professional groups of nurses that are our members around the state. It just helps us work out how we can serve it, how we can do things better for you. We got some excellent feedback from our GP nurses, and I sort of suspect we'll get similar conversations from yourselves, and then obviously from our other groups going forward. It's very, very, our education team have put it together. It's a really, really simple form. It's not onerous for you to do, but it will really help us a lot. So when it does it will get sent after this. When you do receive it, please respond to that. Okay, I think that's probably my introduction. How many do we have in the room? Have we had more joining? We've got 17. I'm just thinking, we've got time to do this. Would you like to just go around the room and say just your name and where you work, like as in, it can be the company you work for, but it can be the area in which you're working as well, where you are in the state, basically. And we get a bit of an idea of, how far we're reaching. I don't know where we're going to start, because all I can see on the screen is myself. Okay, all right. So I can see, well, obviously, we've got Leanne up in the corner. I'll just introduce a few people. We've got Leanne in the corner, who I'll introduce better to you shortly. She's our educator that's going to be presenting. We've got Paul Mitchell there, who is the team leader of the private aged care and diverse. So he's actually the team leader that looks after all of the looks after you guys as well, sector. But Paul's going on leave for a long time shortly. He's going lots of traveling, very excitingly. And then we've got lovely Anne-Marie Daly there, and Anne is an organizer. And again, Anne-Marie is attending tonight because some of you are actually under her portfolio currently. That potentially could change going forward with, the outcomes of this project. But at this stage, Anne-Marie does have quite a lot of you under her portfolio. Okay, so we have Jenny. I can see there's a Jenny, H-E-H-I-R. Would you like to start? Introduce yourself and where you're from. You're on mute. Everybody's on mute.
Jenny did put a chat in the chat box to say that she was from SCU at Kawana in medical imaging.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And Family Curtis have put one in to say Queensland X-ray in Cairns.
Maybe we'd prefer to do that rather than come on screen. Would you like to just put something in the chat and say, I'm trying to find the blooming chat now.
Down the bottom, when you hover down the bottom, you'll see chat. If you just click on that, and
it's not actually there. I'm not seeing it.
It should come to the side.
Yeah.
Just hover your mouse, your pointer.
Yeah.
Down to the bottom of your black screen with all the.
Yeah.
And then you should get participants, chat, share screen, record.
I've got participants. I've got no chat.
No, okay.
Well, Anne-Marie can take over.
I can
you.
read them
Yeah,
out for
could
you.
you do that, Anne-Marie? Because I honestly can't see that.
That's fine. Renee is from Queensland X-Ray in Toowoomba. Jasmine is from Queensland X-Ray Mater Private, Brisbane. Helen is from Breast Screen in Townsville. And now, excuse me if I pronounce this wrong, Kyon Chung is from the PA Hospital in Brisbane. Olympic Adams is Q-Scan Brisbane. Jacqueline is from IMED Radiology at Harvey Bay next to St Stephen's Private Hospital. Alana is, hi, I'm starting a new position at IMED Radiology, Harvey Bay, Queensland, from previous employment in private hospital, anaesthetics, and so very excited. That's good. Clinton is the Wesley. Jackie, Alana is Jackie is my new boss.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. I actually, the chat will not come up for me, but I did see, as people were writing it in, I could actually see it up there anyway. So anyway, it was coming and going. Is that everything, Anne-Marie?
Yes. Oh, Jacqueline's added, yay.
That's fantastic. Oh, lovely. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. That's a really efficient way of doing it, actually, isn't it? And it means you don't have to go on screen as well. Okay, so what I might do now then is throw over to Leanne, who I did say I'd mentioned, I'd introduce further. So Leanne is our education manager. We have an education team here at QNMU, and hopefully in the past, some of you have attended our education sessions. Leanne comes to us as a very highly experienced educator. She has worked with other unions. She will be very happy to let you know that she's not a nurse, but she has worked with, and so she has worked with other unions and brings with her a wealth of knowledge, which is very, very which is great for us. So I'll hand over to Leanne's put together a presentation, and I'll hand over to Leanne. There will be time for questions at the end.
Thank you, Carol. That's a really lovely introduction. That's great. I really appreciate that. So as Carol said, my name's Leanne Brown and I'm the education manager here at QNMU. And I'm really excited to be able to present this presentation for you. It's the first time that we've actually done this. So as Carol mentioned earlier, we really would love your feedback at the end, if you could fill in the little survey. But the other added bonus is that it's the first time we've used this presentation style. It's very interactive. And for me, it's a bit spooky because all I see is my face, but hopefully it's a little bit interactive. I will, in the process of the presentation, sometimes ask you to put something in the chat, just so that I know that we're on track. And if you can see everything and get some feedback from you along the way. So fingers crossed it all goes to plan. And thank you for inviting me, Carol. Let's get started.
Pleasure.
And again, I also want to be able to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land and the waterways on which we work and live. Tonight, I'm on Meanjin country. That's the land of the Turrbal and Yagara peoples. And I know that you're on many lands where you're joining us from. So I pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging, and to any First Nations people here today. Our presentation, I've called it the collective of QNMU because I think particularly nurses in medical imaging or all the other groups that Carol mentioned in the presentation earlier. Sometimes you feel a little bit lonely and by yourselves, although Jackie and Alana are already paired up, which is fantastic. But I think sometimes it can be a little bit isolating. And I know at QNMU, sometimes, and like a lot of workplaces, the focus is where the big speakers are or the big employers are. And we want to make sure that the spotlight is always on them, but also equally to nurses that are working individually in individual workplaces, either across Queensland or within different employers or within specialty like yourself. So it is important for us to be able to make you feel involved. And sometimes being a member of the union, you don't really know what QNMU can offer and what we can do for you, but more importantly, what you can do to be able to create change. So I'm going to tonight, my little presentation is a little bit about QNMU, a little bit about collective strength, even though you're all individual and all over the state. And then just a few little things that you can remember so that when you are working with Carol or Anne-Marie Daly or your organiser within their portfolio about any common interests, that you feel like you're a part of a plan, for want of a better term. So let's have a look at what we've got. So first of all, just a little bit of background about QNMU. I'm not too sure if you realise, but being a member of the QNMU, you're actually joining 69,000 other nurses and midwives across Queensland. And as a result of that membership, you may not realise that you're automatically a member of the Australian Nursing and Midwifery Federation. That's our national body. And nationally, as a collective, you join over 310,000 members. Quite a strong collective. If I ask you now, which is the largest union in Queensland? Can people just quickly pop in the chat? Who do you think is the largest union in Queensland? Let's see who can get it right. What have we got? We've got the Teachers Union from Jasmine. Close. Anybody, any other takers? Well done, Jacqueline. Yes, QNMU. So we are. It is really amazing, isn't it, that the largest union in Queensland is the nurses and midwives, closely followed by teachers, closely followed by police. So, you know, those frontline workforce make up a very large collective of the workforce here in Queensland. So it's not the construction and mining unions that always seem to get the headlines, the fluoros, you see people marching in the streets. The largest union in Queensland that has the most members, that is most effective, is the QNMU. And just as a bit of a side note, so that I can make sure that you all are aware, that we do have physical offices in a lot of regional towns, Rockhampton, Toowoomba, Bundaberg, Gold Coast, Sunny Coast and Townsville. There's skeleton staff there, but there is a physical office that if you needed to pop in or get any pamphlets or anything, you can give them a call and call into those offices. Let me make sure. And with your membership, what that means is that there's help is close by, obviously. There's help when you need it. Your membership gives you access to free individual advice and representation. Obviously, we negotiate your pay rises for you and improve your working conditions on behalf of a collective. There's heaps of free courses that we assist with that give you your CPD hours. I'm hoping everybody's received our extensive education calendar that you should have received recently in your InScope magazine. Let us know in the chat if you haven't got one, and we can arrange. You can find it on our website as well, of course, but if you want a physical copy, let us know. But it did get posted out in your InScope. But in that, we've advertised a lot of union and professional courses. And the other thing is, put your hand up if you've already had a look at our CPD portal. Anybody had an access, gone in and have a look at our new CPD portal that we launched last year? Yep, Renee, thank you. I'm hoping you found it a great experience. There's lots there, lots of courses. Oh, Lana, Jacqueline, fantastic. Because that portal is just a fantastic resource for our members, and we need to remind people to use it. Your membership also gives you the most comprehensive professional indemnity insurance policy out there on the market. And there's no excess. You don't have to put your hand in your pocket to be able to make a claim, although we assist you with that process anyway. But always, whenever anybody's talking to you about the benefits of being a member of QNMU, we don't like to say it's insurance, but there is an element of that's why people join. And if you're trying to get a cheaper policy, read the fine print. You're going to get the best and most comprehensive policy when you're a member of the QNMU. And I've mentioned our extensive calendar already, and we've also got health and safety courses in there as well. But most importantly, and I'm not sure if you can see this clearly, and we'll fix this up a bit later, but most importantly, we like to think that people join to be part of a collective or a part of a group that works together to promote common interests. And it's the work that we spend our working lives making sure that your working conditions and your working lives are always on the improve by the collective strength behind it. Now, I don't want to dwell. I think people sort of tune out when I start talking about union history. I find it fascinating, but I think it's always good to sometimes have a little bit of a reminder of where we've got to, or how we've got to where we are today. Collective strength in the end is what it takes. And back in 1856, that was when the 8-hour day movement was formed by the stonemasons here in Australia. And if they didn't make that courageous and brave move back in 1856, and I'll probably add dangerous move in there, we might, who knows what today would look like. But that 8-hour day means that we have 8 hours of work traditionally, 8 hours of play, and 8 hours of rest and sleep. I like to sometimes be reminded of that, so that when we're looking at wanting to make a change within our workplace, and if it's a bit scary or if it's a bit daunting, let's remember what it took to put get some of the working conditions that we enjoy today. Because most, if not all, of the working conditions you have today or enjoy today came about as a result of people asking and activating for change. So even simple things like your annual leave, 4 weeks annual leave, we started off with 2 weeks, a bit like America that still has only 10 working days annual leave. People march the streets to get 3 weeks, and then they march the streets in about 72 to get 4 weeks. So there's a lot of different changes to the working conditions that you've seen over the years, and it's as a result of people activating for change and asking the question, and sometimes getting a collective group together. I can remember when I first started working, and as Carol mentioned, I'm not a nurse. I started in the finance industry. There was no such thing as part-time work. Back in 1982, you had to be full-time or nothing. And if I chose to get married back then, thankfully I didn't, I was only 15, but I would have had to have left working. I was not allowed to work if I was a married woman. So we've come a long way to the conditions that we have, and we need to continue to change because our working lives change with it. And I do want to just make a note to say that I know this is odd, but workers who join a trade union are more likely to have better terms and conditions and higher wages than non-organised workplaces. So that's because you've got that power of the collective behind you to be able to have some strength in your negotiation and some strength in your argument to get what you want. Does that make sense to everybody? Yep, I'm hoping. I can't see any nodding, but just if you've got any questions, pop them in the chat for me, and Ebony will be able to let me know. So when I talk about collective strength, and like I said earlier, sometimes it's really hard when, as nurses in medical imaging, you're all scattered across Queensland. I'm sure there's many of you that have many common interests, or the problems are the same, even though you're all working in different areas. And although this story that I'm going to tell you is not from the health industry, I think it easily, well, it does. It reflects what we need to think about. So, and it's a story very close to my heart, but it's a story of creating change. So here's, I don't know if I hold this up, will this work? Oh, look at that. So this gentleman here, his name is Ken Laidlaw, and he worked in the banking and the finance industry. He was a bank clerk back in 1919 for what's now known as the National Australia Bank. Ken wanted to marry the woman of his dreams, and he knew well, two things. One, to be able to marry the woman of his dreams, he had to ask the bank manager for permission. He also had to ask for her hand in marriage, I would imagine, to her father, but he also had to ask his boss if it was okay to get married. That's number one, thinking that's a bit strange. Number two, he knew that on his bank clerk salary, he would not be able to support a family because she wouldn't be allowed to work. So what he needed to do is, he was working in a branch in what's now known as Queen Street Mall, actually. He decided, surely there's other people in my boat. I think he was about 21 at the time. And what he did was he walked what's now known as Queen Street Mall, and visited every single bank that was in Brisbane. And he asked to speak to his equivalent, his colleagues that work for different employers, and said, would you like to make some change? Because I think this is really weird. I'm not paid enough to support a family, but I don't know how to go about it because I'm not having much luck in getting a pay rise through my immediate manager. He had those conversations, and what they ended up doing was meeting in secret in what is now known as the Treasury Hotel here in Brisbane. And effectively on the 4th of September 1919, what is now known as the Finance Sector Union was formed. Back then it was called the Bank Officers Association. And they had to meet in secret. The bosses weren't allowed to know. It was actually illegal to meet and talk about working conditions. But when I took you back to 1856 and the stonemasons, we're now into 1919 and we're still having to take some dangerous actions to make change. Now, I'm not saying at all that you need to take action that's going to be dangerous or put your life at risk, or, perhaps not stop your livelihood. But it's a really interesting story to say that this is how things change. People have conversations with people with the same interest and the common interest. And that's why when I heard I was doing this presentation to you guys today, I felt like you're all in individual workplaces, sometimes the only one doing that work. And sometimes you don't realise that there's actually others out there that are doing exactly the same thing, and you need to just ask. And for, Carol and Anne-Marie and Paul, who have already, joined you together as part of a collective, that step's already done, which is fantastic. What Ken would have asked himself, I think you need to be starting to think about as a group about, is there, what would you like your workplace or sector to look like? If you could improve one thing in your workplace or your sector, what would that be? Start thinking about these conversations. And when your organiser talks to you, if we get the group together again shortly, we might be touching on these topics to be able to say, okay, what can we do? What do you have in common? What is your Ken Laidlaw, for want of a better word, to be able to identify what your interests are? Because at the end of the day, we want to be able to get to a place where the union is in every workplace. Now, it's not going to happen overnight, but it's a union workplace. We want to get there. You may not be out and proud or loud, but the union is everywhere. And how do we do that? How do we normalise our union in the eyes of management and others? Does anybody have any ideas of what we could do to normalise union in the workplace? Pop it in the chat if you get a chance. We're going to do a Ken Laidlaw and walk the streets and just ask the questions, because I think that's what we need to do, don't we? We need to always use union in our conversation. We need to talk to our colleagues about, I heard this from the union office the other day. I rang the union to get some advice and this is what happened, so that it's not something that's a little bit out there. We also need to have a think about who needs to be involved if we want to make some change. If nurses in imaging need to start a QNMU branch. Thanks, Paul. That's a good idea, specifically for nurses in medical imaging. It might be a way to be able to have your voices heard at our conference that we have, and to be able to get some change in policy and direction. Have a think about those questions. I don't expect answers tonight, of course, but this is just a little bit of an overview. And when you are wanting change to happen, it means that you need to build relationships. You need to build, and don't be afraid to do this. Please build a relationship with the QNMU. There's Carol on the website, on the web tonight. There's Anne-Marie, there's Paul, there's myself in the education department. You've got your own local organiser that hopefully you can reach, you'll be able to get in contact with. Member Connect, our call centre. So please build that relationship with the QNMU. Find out who else is a member of the QNMU in your workplace. I know that your nurse is in medical imaging, but I'm surely there's other nurses around. So ask that question. Don't be afraid. Hey, I was on a QNMU course last night. Are you a member? If you happen to have any workplace reps, who are they? And I'm sure Carol and Anne-Marie will be able to talk to you more about our structure for workplace reps. This one's an important one for me. Knowledge is power. So what knowledge do you need or want to be able to make change in your workplace? What things do you need to do, or what things do we need to get in place to be able to make change? Find out more about your workplace rights and entitlements and talk about them together. Like I said earlier, if you ring the QNMU contact centre, our call centre, they'll be able to answer all of your questions, and then you can normalise that conversation around the water cooler or the lunchroom. We've got courses on that we've advertised specifically about knowing your agreements and workplace rights and entitlements. So come along, we try to make them available online and in person, but just find out more about them. Give us a call, ask the question, and start having these conversations in your workplace to normalise union in the workplace. Now, unlike, and I know it sounds like they did some big things back then in 1856 and 1919, but taking small actions and having small wins usually encourages more people to get involved, because it is very scary and we need to take some small steps, but taking some small actions initially will encourage others to get involved. And look, finally, we need to remember that this process, I suppose it is like a Pantene ad. It's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen, all right? If you have the courage, like Ken and the stonemasons, you need to have some time. So it's not going to happen overnight. So give yourself time for change. Have some patience, because there is some processes involved and steps you have to take when you want to raise any concerns or if you want to make change. So nothing's going to happen overnight. Again, I keep using that terminology, don't I? Have persistence. Be like a broken record. Ask the question. Be the squeaky wheel. Have a plan. Talk to your organiser, to Carol, to myself about what you'd like to achieve, and have a plan and be prepared. Very easy. It's a lot of the things that we've put in to life skills as well. And finally, I'm just going to end on this little picture, because for me, when I saw it, other than just being a gorgeous little photo, it's a great representation of like how you may feel, or how a lot of our members feel when you're in the small groups, or if you're in a small group of specialist occupations. You need to remember that even though you're like that little tiny baby cub there, you have one big mother lion representing 69,000 members supporting you along the way. So I hope you get that feeling of being part of a collective. And yeah, thank you very much. I hope I didn't go too fast. Carol, that's the end of my, let me go.
Fantastic. Can everybody, can you hear me okay?
I can, thank you.
Oh, lovely, lovely.
You got
Thank
any
you.
questions?
Leanne, just thank you. That was brilliant. That was absolutely fabulous. We will we'll talk about a few more things that you've actually mentioned, but I think before you, I know you're not running away anyway, but if there are any questions for Leanne, fire away. No? Anything? Nothing coming in. You can write.
If you think of anything, you can always email Carol and get back to us anyway, or the education at QNMU. I should finish off with that. education@qnmu.org.au, shouldn't I?
Oh, here we are. We've got something, not a question, but wow. I've been a member for 36 years.
Wow, congratulations, Jacqueline. Thank you. That's fantastic.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Okay, if there's no more questions, or as you say, Leanne, if people put the questions in the chat, we can ask you. Leanne's staying with us anyway, so that was really great. Thank you. Thanks, Leanne. It's nice to have a presentation to sort of get us going. Look, I guess I will throw over to Paul shortly, who is the team leader of the. He's probably sitting there thinking, no, she didn't say she'd do that. Who is the team leader of the team that look after the diverse sector. But I guess just a couple of things that Leanne mentioned that I'd just like to touch base with you with regards to. When the survey went out, the SMS survey, there were a couple of people that wanted me to call them, and that was obviously one of the questions. Would you like a call? And I did speak with a few people, and one of the members that, and unfortunately I can't see her on here tonight unless she's actually joined us a little bit later, but I'm not seeing her name there. But she mentioned that you used to have a group that look after you called MENA, which is the, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Medical Imaging Nurses Association, and apparently that's a national body that looks after professional issues, I guess. And what she said was that unfortunately in Queensland it fell over. It was very good at the time and certainly helped with professional issues, not necessarily industrial, but did help with professional issues. And it was a means like this of getting together and talking to your like-minded colleagues. But it had fallen over apparently in Queensland because of there was nobody that was, could take that. Like all things, these things take some time. There has to be somebody to, send out the minutes. There has to be somebody that organises the meetings, and there just was nobody in Queensland, so it fell over. So I mean, we're not MENA, and we obviously don't pretend to be that body. But when I talked to this particular member, she certainly what she was talking about. It sounds like, well, we can do that too. We can have these regular meetings. We can find out what your professional issues are. It may be that you're very happy with your industrial issue. What we found with our GP nurses was quite a lot of them were, working in practices where they were quite happy with the conditions. They may not have been perfect, but, they love the people they work with and they're happy. But professionally, they felt disjointed from their colleagues. So, it could be that is where we could come in for you. But what we need from you is to know exactly what it is you would like from us. We've got so much that we can offer. But we just need to know from you. We don't want to, bore you. We don't want to. We just want you to come to us and let us know. And so that goes a little bit into, obviously Leanne was talking about branches, and I don't know if any of you have ever been a member of a branch before, but quite clearly, it's a group of people that come together that are under a certain umbrella. If this were a branch, this would be maybe medical imaging branch, and that is one of the questions on the feedback form. But the good thing about the branches are that it does it gives you a bigger voice to be able to come to our annual conference every year, and your delegates to attend annual conference every year, and have your needs out there on the big screen and worked upon. So there's a lot of reasons, a lot of ways in which we can work with you.
Carol, Renee's just popped up to say that understaffing and underpaid is the main issue in finding. It's a typical nursing issue.
Right,
it's across the board, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Look, how about at this stage? I mean, it's 6:34. We've actually got a little bit of time. So if people are happy, Paul, do you want to jump in? I'm sure you're champing at the bit to say something.
Yeah, look, just in relation to the pay and conditions, there have been changes that have gone through Parliament around industry-based bargaining. So that would give us an option to negotiate, not with each individual employer, but to negotiate an agreement on behalf of all radiology workers so that we could see improvements for everyone's pay and conditions. It's a very easy sentence to say. It's not so easy to put into practice if we don't have a group of members who are willing to provide us with the information we need and to assist getting the message out to workplaces. But that is certainly something that we would be able to look at if we've got access to a reasonable number of members who work in the field. And yeah, in relation to branches, Carol, you already said it, but the main benefit of having a branch specific to your professional group is that you would be able to attend conference and you could propose motions that give us direction around what you want to achieve and what you want us to do. So our annual conference lays the groundwork for what we do as a union. At the moment, there's no one from any medical imaging services participating to that process. So this would be a really good opportunity to get a group of people together and get more involved in determining what we do as a union to try and make your life a bit better. And also, Carol said, we're not just an industrial union, we are a professional body as well. So we do have a lot of professionals in our organisation who would be more than willing to work on any professional education or professional support that you feel you need, but we really need you to tell us what it is you want. So we are here to try and provide the services that our members want. We need you to tell us. So the feedback at the end of this session will be really helpful. But look, hopefully we'll be able to take that feedback, identify what some of the needs are, and then we'll be able to set up some further sessions like this where we're able to provide you with whatever it is you've requested.
That's great. Thank you, Paul. Are you? Oh, sorry, Paul. I thought you'd frozen then for a minute, but you moved.
No, it's a trick I've learned on
It's
Zoom.
a
If you
trick,
sit dead
and then-
still, people think
and
you're gone.
everybody just
Great.
moves on. Yeah, we do have Alana has written in the chat, one of my previous issues with previous employment has been managers and CEOs not encouraging frequent staff meetings so that staff can voice their concerns. Yeah.
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 I was going to say, and you know, that sorry to interrupt, Carol, but that's
No,
why
not at all.
I raised, and I didn't expand on the Ken Laidlaw story. Look, there's a whole book written around it, but they met outside of work.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to do these type of meetings or meet in a coffee shop or have a Zoom meeting at a, you know, when it's witching hour, when the kids are in the kitchen, so that it's away from the working day to be able to speak freely. We'd like to be able to get to a point where your employer realizes that you know these conversations are work conversations, but sometimes you have to do the coffee shop and the meet in the park, or go to the Treasury Hotel and meet as a group, or on a Zoom or on an online forum, and so that you can speak freely too. And that gives you the freedom without having management jumping down and listening.
Yeah, management are never going to support people getting together to try and get more money out of them. It's a very, very difficult task to separate a rich person from their money.
Yeah.
So yeah, they are not going to be cooperative because their view of unions are it's people who are going to end up having to cost them a bit of money. That's not necessarily always the case though. As I say, we are a professional organisation as well, and we can provide education and increase the knowledge and skills of people who work in the sector. So there are benefits for employers as well. We just need to make sure that they're aware of that. We're not there to just take from them. We're there to upskill people, to keep people, keep your skills up to date, help with your CPD. And it all goes towards helping you provide a better service, which in turn earns them a bit more money.
Yeah, I can see there's a few other things in the chat that I'll mention, but I will say, just going back to the conversation, Leanne, with regards to the meeting, you know, outside of work or in the coffee shops or whatever. Obviously, everybody on here would know that we have absolutely no problems ever getting into the public sector and some private sector areas as well to meet with our members. So, you know, we do in a normal work day. But that wasn't always the case. I mean, way back when we had, and you would all remember the Campbell Newman years where we were not allowed in, even in the public sector, we're not allowed into the hospitals. And honestly, we had so much fun. It sounds silly, but we had so much fun working with that, you know, in that, well, we can't work, we can't meet there, so we are going to go elsewhere, you know, and we did, and we had lots of fun doing that. And it was almost once, you know, we didn't have to, once we could go back in, when the change of government and we could go back into the workplaces, it was like we'd lost a bit of something. So we had lots of fun doing that. Yeah, so certainly, and you know, having it outside of work, and we're happy to meet with you in those times as well. So I'm just looking at what else. There's a few other things here. Using radiographers. This is from Jasmine. Using radiographers staff as nurses. Also, no nursing clinical policies in place because the organization is being run by radiographers and doctors, and there are no nurses involved in policies decision making. Yeah, certainly something we see, and something we see as well in GP land. And then fully agree, Jasmine. Renee agreed with Jasmine. Jacqueline, would be wonderful to have education specific to medical imaging again. Since we lost MENA Queensland, it has been difficult. Yep. And as I said, you know, if we know what it is that you're wanting, we can certainly do that. We have, Paul mentioned, we have lots of people in our organisation who you're probably not aware of, but we have our professional officers, we have our industrial officers. These people, and ourselves, obviously, our education team, there's so many people that will work together to research what it is you're wanting and then bring that education to you. But once again, once we know, you know, it's pointless us putting these things together if it's not valuable to you. And obviously this is a start, but if you could let us know, that would be fabulous. And there, again, in the feedback, there is an option, there's a box for you to be able to respond to that. So let us know. I agree, Jasmine. I feel generally speaking, nurses are not really respected for their skills, training, knowledge. Yeah, a common theme. Because them saying email is the best option to get your issues heard, it doesn't, because it singles people out, yeah, without having the backing of their team. And again, if people feel threatened, their name's on that email, you know, they feel nervous about that. Once again,
Carol,
remember,
that's one of the benefits of having a branch. If we start a branch, then any correspondence can come from whatever the name of the branch is,
yes,
rather than a specific person.
yeah.
So it's a way of raising issues without the individual having to put their hand up.
Yeah. Great, Paul, true. And this one here, it would be great for QNMU to represent all medical imaging nurses as a group with one EBA and all paid at the same standard. Very interesting. And look, we can, obviously you've had the presentation tonight, and you know, Leanne's given you some great examples. We've talked about, you know, how we can help, and I guess it's just getting that ball rolling. And I will say this, you know, and you all know, nothing happens quickly. It really doesn't, but we can do this, you know. But once again, we need to know what you're wanting from us. So that's some great examples there. And we do have, obviously, we have this recorded, so we can go back through these and get these examples written down.
And Carol, I know this is a big jump.
No, not at all.
A big step, but
Yeah.
and this is what, you know, we're starting right at the infancy with this group, these groups
Yes.
of nurses, and either GP clinics, all of the different diverse groups you've identified, nurses in medical imaging. But you know, there's a schedule for those that are in the public sector, because I appreciate some on tonight are in work for private employers, but there's some also that work in the public. There's a schedule at the end for the Department of Education nurses. Now, there's a lot of work that needs to be done and probably years to get there, but back to Paul's point, it starts by having a collective, or all of our point really, a collective group of people with a common interest. They form a branch, they direct the QNMU through their conference and rules to have this as a process, and ultimately put steps in place. So it's not out of the question of having a separate EBA is all I'm saying, but a long road ahead.
Yeah.
Different for private employers, please. I do need to state that, but still something that we can look at. And with the new IR laws, it allows us to do groupings. So early days, isn't it, Paul? But exciting times for people that are little smaller employers.
Fantastic, Leanne. Thank you. I'm not seeing any. Are there any questions? I can't see any questions. I can see comments, and we've gone through the comments in the chat. Is there anybody that would like to ask a question specifically? Can't see anything there. Can't see anything being added. What I might do, it's 1:45. Anne-Marie, did you want to, sorry, I'm putting you on the spot there. Anne-Marie, if you don't want to say anything, then that's absolutely fine. But I'm wondering maybe you do want to. Maybe even introducing yourself and telling us where your role fits in.
That's about all I can say.
That's okay.
Yeah, no, I'm Anne-Marie. I work in the private and diverse section, but the diverse and aged care, but the diverse comes under me. But it's not an area where we often can get out to sites to see, because yous are also spread out across the country, or across the state. But it doesn't mean that you're not assisted in any way. We are just a phone call away. But yeah, it just makes things a little bit harder. But if there is pockets in there, then at some point we can arrange to do something as this all works through. But yeah, other than that, I've only, I've been with the QNMU on this side of the road for 18 months, but I too have been a member for 36 or 30 odd years prior to that. So yeah, that's about it for me, Carol.
Thanks, Anne-Marie.
Yeah, can I just jump in again?
Yes, please.
Historically, the whole QNMU branch structure, we focused on workplaces like hospitals or aged care facilities, where there are large groups of members and they've come together to form branches. We now have so many members in the diverse sector who are not being represented by that process. It's just not working for them. Because they don't have a group of people together like that. So part of the purpose of what we're doing here is trying to bring together all of those workers from diverse workplaces to give them a chance to talk to each other, to give them a chance to have a bit more say in what we do and the services that we provide to them. So this is all brand new. It's not something that we've done previously, and we would love to get feedback, as Carol keeps saying. Feedback would be ideal. We would like to set up agendas for meetings like this that have come from members. So we want to be discussing the things that you find important, the things that you want to talk about. So if we can get a list in advance of the sort of topics that people want to cover, we can line up the right people to talk to those things. And hopefully we'll be able to provide better representation in future for not just medical imaging, but all the other small groups, the cosmetics and injectable nurses, the school nurses, who have previously not had the opportunity to be involved. So please fill in those feedback forms and let us know what you want from us. And if you don't know what the options are and you want to discuss things a bit further, please reach out to your local organiser. So there would have been an email address in the email that you got for this session. So if you can't find your organiser easily, just respond to that email address and we'll hook you up with the right person and they'd be able to give you a bit of an overview if you're short of ideas.
Thanks, Paul. Leanne, and there was, I'm not sure if you were putting your thumbs up to the comment that was in there. So over to you.
Oh, look, Jacqueline's asked if there's courses available to support nurses in policy writing. We don't actually have any in policy writing at the moment, Jacqueline, but we do have on how to write a motion when you're going to conference. But it is something, again, that, and it's not really a requirement for our members to even have to write the policy. Let's just talk about what you want, get the specialist advice from our experts, from the professionals in the building here, and we'll assist you in helping you write. But, getting back to that branch structure, the branch can write a motion, and we do have some current courses at the moment on the calendar to be able to help with that. There's one coming up, which I think is booked out at the moment, but there is a waiting list. But please, if you're interested, it's called The Building Blocks of QNMU. And in there, we talk about really how the QNMU can support you. But part of that is writing a motion to conference to be able to have a resolution, for us to be able to, like Paul said, provides direction for us to be able to get things in place. So I hope that answers your question, Jacqueline. Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Excellent. That's great. Okay, look, if there's nothing more, it's 10:02. We still have 10 minutes. If there is anybody that would like to ask anything further, you've got us here now, so fire away. If not, we will. I don't want to say if not and then just go, because you might be quickly writing. But if you want to put something in the chat. Other than that, really, I think all that is left is for us to say good night. Thank you very, very much for joining us. We're really, really happy. We're so excited about this. When you're sort of setting, you're sending these invitations out, and you genuinely don't know what sort of feedback you're going to get. So it's been really lovely to see so many people, and it's very telling that so many people from a particular sector have chosen to come on, and this is what we're sort of hoping to see with our other groups that we're going to be communicating with. So thank you for joining us. I think you've obviously been given some ideas tonight, and certainly you've been given the opportunity, or ways you can reach out to us going forward. Once again, I know, Paul, you're right. I do keep saying it, but that feedback form is just so vital. And for anybody that's actually ever run any education sessions, you'll know how important those feedback forms are. But they're particularly important with this, because this is something that is new, and we're sort of hoping to expand out. So hearing from you will be extremely helpful. So again, please fill out the feedback forms. I just want to say one thing as well. As you've all been saying, you've been with the QNMU 36 years. So have I. Actually, it must be a thing about 1987, because I did a quick calculation when Paul was talking. I joined in 1987, which is 36 years ago. So it must be a bit of a number tonight for people on dialing in for this. All right.
Thank you, Carol. I'll just add one last thing. I'm jumping in.
Yes, no, please.
To say, oh, there you go, Jacqueline, 1987. It was the year. All of the action was happening in 1987.
Yes.
Is to say that if we do have another one of these Zoom sessions, please invite your colleagues and bring a friend along next time. So I'm hoping you got a little bit of information out of tonight, but yeah, bring a friend next time, and explain what we're trying to achieve, and hopefully small baby steps and you'll get there. And I've been a member of my union, various numbers over the years, of 41 years. There you go.
You're beating us.
Yeah, sorry.
That's great. All right. Well, there's nothing else. We've got so many thanks. Happy to do feedback. Thank you. Thank you very much, Alana. Thank you, Olympic. Ollie. Thank you, Ollie. Thank you, Angela. I don't want to miss anybody. Jacqueline, Jasmine, you're all responding. Thank you very much. It's been lovely, and we look forward to doing this again.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.